The anti-Kyles have done just about everything they can to try and justify what Joseph Rosenbaum did that night in Kenosha. Some are saying, well, he was provoked by Kyle earlier in the evening. Well, so what? Self-defense laws in Wisconsin allow Kyle to reaffirm his self-defense if he flees from the scene, and he clearly fled from the scene. Some are saying, well, Joseph Rosenbaum felt threatened by that rifle. And that's the reason why he chased Kyle. He had to. He was so scared of that rifle that he felt he had to disarm Kyle. It's self-defense. Is it? Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnnie Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnnie Walker Dread Show.
Okay, so Kyle is making a claim of self-defense, and the anti-Kyles come in and they say, you can't claim self-defense because Kyle was carrying his gun illegally. That's a crime in Wisconsin. He wasn't supposed to have that rifle. Therefore, he can't claim self-defense. Okay, so let's suppose that is true. It's not, but let's suppose that it's true. Let's suppose that Kyle is carrying the gun illegally. That part has not been established yet. They're going to be weighing that in court. But, okay, it sounds like a reasonable thing to surmise. Does Kyle lose his right to self-defense because he was committing that misdemeanor? Remember, it's a misdemeanor. Well, let's turn our attention to Joseph Rosenbaum. Joseph Rosenbaum is trying to take possession of Kyle's rifle. Don't believe me? Listen. Okay, so we're going to listen to Richard McGinnis, who's going to tell us what happened that night when he was near Kyle Rittenhouse as Joseph Rosenbaum attacked him.
So you can see actually one of the other angles that I'm running after that stream. And Kyle actually, once he gets cornered where that car on the wall is, he basically turns around and the man goes for his gun. Kyle avoids him, and then that's when the shots are fired out.
Kyle turned around and the man goes for his gun. Now, Richard McGinnis has made this comment before on other shows. It's very clear that according to Richard McGinnis' testimony, Joseph Rosenbaum tried to take control of Kyle's weapon. Now, what's the legalities of that? You see, we've been talking a lot about Kyle and his misdemeanor. You see, he was out there carrying a rifle. He's only 17. That's a misdemeanor crime. He can't claim self-defense when you're committing a crime like carrying a rifle. Well, what about Joseph Rosenbaum? If you ask them, well, was Joseph Rosenbaum right in his ability to chase Kyle and take that weapon because he thought that Kyle was a danger with it? And those guys will say, oh yeah, of course. Joseph Rosenbaum is entitled to self-defense. Well, Kyle isn't because he broke a law, but Joseph Rosenbaum certainly. I mean, it's perfectly reasonable for Joseph Rosenbaum to chase Kyle and try to take his weapon if he feels that Kyle is a threat. Well, what does the law say? Now remember what the premise is. Joseph Rosenbaum chased Kyle and attempted to take his weapon because he felt threatened by Kyle, and therefore he was acting in self-defense. And he's right to do that. He should be able to exercise his right to self-defense regardless of whether he is a felon or not. However, by taking the rifle, he would be committing a felony. And one could argue, and I think very successfully, that Kyle Rittenhouse, by shooting Joseph Rosenbaum, prevented Joseph Rosenbaum from committing a felony crime. And most importantly, if Joseph Rosenbaum could maintain his self-defense right, even though he felt attacked, then Kyle should be as well. Now, a lot of people come back and say, yeah, but Joseph Rosenbaum wasn't breaking the law when he was trying to take Kyle's weapon. Was he? Never mind the curfew violation. Both are committing curfew violations, and while people initially tried to pin the old, well, he's doing a curfew violation, therefore he can't defend himself thing, they've abandoned that one, I think, largely thanks to the people who pushed back on it. And so they're working under the assumption that the real lawbreaker that night was Kyle Rittenhouse with his carrying a weapon around. That's a misdemeanor. He can't do that. If you're committing a crime, you can't claim self-defense. And when you turn your attention to Joseph Rosenbaum, they say, yeah, but he was an adult. He can carry a rifle, so what's the problem? Let's find out. Okay, so we go to 941.29, possession of a firearm. All right, we're just going to look down here and see what we got. According to 1M, a person who possesses a firearm is guilty of a Class G felony if any of the following applies. A, the person has been convicted of a felony in this state. Joseph Rosenbaum was convicted of a felony in Arizona, but it says number B, the person has been convicted of a crime elsewhere that would be a felony if committed in this state, and therefore Joseph Rosenbaum cannot take possession of a firearm because child rape is certainly a felony in Wisconsin. Now, he didn't actually have a firearm. He tried to take it from Kyle. That's the evidence presented by Richard McGinnis in his testimony, in his interview that we heard. Okay, so what if he's just trying to get a hold of a firearm, but he doesn't actually take possession of it? Well, we go down a little bit further. So, first of all, these are footnotes to the actual statutes. The first one here I'm going to show, the ban on felons possessing firearms is constitutional, and that ban extends to all felons, including nonviolent ones. Wouldn't matter. Joseph Rosenbaum is guilty of a violent felony. But let's go down. Attempted possession of a firearm by a felon is a crime recognized under Wisconsin law. State versus Henning. Okay, so right there it tells you attempted possession of a firearm by a felon is a crime. Now, I'm going to go ahead and read State versus Henning. It's right here. All of these, by the way, are referring to the same case law. And we'll see what goes on there because it's rather interesting because after all, you might say, well, now, wait a minute there now. Joseph Rosenbaum didn't necessarily get a hold of Kyle's rifle. What does attempted possession mean? I mean, if I don't actually get my hands on it, is that still attempted possession? Well, Henning versus State is going to tell you. Did Joseph Rosenbaum do anything wrong in trying to take Kyle's rifle? Well, let's take a look here. This is from Henning versus the State. This is an important case for us. This establishes the culpability of Joseph Rosenbaum in this ordeal, but it also provides some real insights into how attempts to take a weapon can be interpreted by the court. So here we go. J. Wyatt Henning appeals a judgment of conviction entered on a jury verdict finding him guilty of attempted possession of a firearm by a felon. Okay, now, who's a felon in our case? Joseph Rosenbaum. And Kyle is trying to get away from Rosenbaum. Okay. And an order denying post-conviction relief. The issues presented are whether, 1, the circuit court lacked subject matter jurisdiction. We won't worry about that. 2, which is really the real clincher here, the evidence was sufficient to prove Henning's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And then finally, number 3, something about ordering a new trial. We're not going to worry about that one. It's number 2 that's rather interesting. So let's take a look at the background of this case. The following facts are taken from the trial and preliminary hearing. In March 2008, Henning, a felon, and his girlfriend got into a heated argument. Next time, pick a better boyfriend. Okay. At the time of the incident, Henning and his girlfriend resided together with their young daughter. After Henning went to work that day, his girlfriend packed her belongings and left with their daughter. So it looks like they've had a little bit of a tiff and she's flown the coop, as ADA Binger would say it. Returning home from work, Henning discovered the two had left. Soon after, Henning called his girlfriend and threatened to kill her if she did not return their daughter to him before he went to bed. Okay, now, so far, somewhat interesting, but it gets better. Brian Kettle, Henning's co-worker, testified at trial that Henning mentioned at work that he was mad at his girlfriend. Kettle testified that Henning called him a couple hours after work and inquired about a pistol. So he calls up Kettle and was wanting to talk to him about a pistol. Kettle responded that he needed to get back to work and that he would see Henning at work the next day. Henning replied, "Maybe," and hung up the phone. Ooh, that sounds a little ominous, okay? Kettle testified that he did not own a firearm. Okay, so Henning is trying to get a firearm from somebody who doesn't even own one. So there's no firearm actually in existence here, at least not the one that Henning's trying to get a hold of. At trial, the parties questioned Kettle extensively about the precise words that Henning used during the phone call because of inconsistencies between his trial testimony and his testimony at a preliminary hearing. So Kettle already is a little bit shaky on what he has told people. At the preliminary hearing, Kettle could not recall the specific words that Henning used during the phone call, but testified that Henning asked him either, "Do you have a pistol?" or "Can you get a pistol?" At trial, Kettle indicated that while he could not recall with certainty the precise words that Henning used, he believed that Henning asked him, "Can you get a pistol?" At the close of the state's case, defense counsel moved to dismiss on the grounds that the state had failed to prove that Henning demonstrated unequivocally that he was attempting to possess a firearm. The court denied the motion. The jury found Henning guilty of attempted possession of a firearm by a felon, and the court denied Henning's post-conviction motion. Henning appeals, and so that's the reason why that this appeals court is going to take this up. Now, here's some interesting things about a comparison between Henning and Rosenbaum. Henning never actually told the person, Kettle, to get him a pistol. He just inquired about one. Kettle is not even sure of what was said. Furthermore, there was no pistol. Now, Rosenbaum attempted to actually take physical control of Kyle's rifle. And there is a rifle there. Of that, there is no dispute. So it seems that Rosenbaum's attempt to take possession of a firearm is far more concrete than Henning's. Well, let's see how the appeals court ruled. We'll scroll on down. I've read all this, but it's I don't know if there's anything it adds to the mix. Conclusion. In sum, we conclude that 1. Attempted possession of a firearm by a felon is a crime recognized under Wisconsin law. 2. The evidence was sufficient to find Henning guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And 3. The state's remarks about the closing argument we won't care about. But keep in mind, look how thin the evidence was. The witness never claimed that Henning asked him to bring him a pistol. There was never an attempt by Henning to actually take possession of a real firearm. He just implied it, and yet he got busted for this. Rosenbaum chased a kid that was carrying a rifle and then tried to take it from the kid. That's according to Richard McGinnis, who's a pretty credible witness. He was right there. Therefore, there is no doubt that Joseph Rosenbaum was attempting to take possession of a firearm, and he is a felon. That would have been a felony. So in the end, if you truly believe that Kyle cannot claim self-defense, that his shooting of Joseph Rosenbaum was unjustified because he was committing a misdemeanor, carrying a gun while as a minor, what right does Joseph Rosenbaum have to try to take his gun from him? The attempt to take the rifle is a felony in Wisconsin. We showed that. So could Joseph Rosenbaum? So is Joseph Rosenbaum's attempt to take Kyle's rifle justified? How do you explain your way out of that inconsistency? Like my video and subscribe to my channel.